Welcome back to the Girlfriend Blueprint. I am your host, relationship expert Brad Browning. Now, in the first video of this three-part series, you got an overview of what you're going to learn. And you also learned the 3 most common reasons relationships fail, and zoomed in on the first step of the Girlfriend Blueprint by learning how to create physical passion. So make sure that you're now using the tools you learned in your relationship to create passion. Now, today we're going to be digging deep on the second step of the Girlfriend Blueprint, engaging her emotions. So what does it mean to engage a woman's emotions? Well, for a lot of men, as soon as you start talking about emotions or feelings, they tune out. But I don't want you to do that. As I said in the preview for this video, you can create an emotionally engaging relationship without having to become some touchy-feely dude or a drama-causing jerk. Now, how do you do that? By understanding and applying the 3 keys to emotional engagement: understanding, empathy, and compassion. Now, that order is actually important. You must first seek to understand, then empathize, and then show compassion. So let's start by defining the 3 keys to emotional engagement, and then we'll get into 9 different tactics you can use to really engage. So what does it mean when I say understanding? Well, understanding is the act of looking past the surface of what a woman is saying to try to figure out what she actually wants or needs. Now, people hate confrontation, and women are no exception. So by the time your girlfriend starts a fight or breaks up with you, she's hinted around what the problems are for months. Now, most men are kind of oblivious to these kind of hints, and they take things at face value. But understanding is the act of looking past the surface to see what your girlfriend is really asking for. Okay, so now that you understand that, now what? Well, the next problem that blocks emotional engagement is a lack of empathy or the capacity to feel what other people are feeling. Now, men are very good at blocking empathy. We say things like, just don't worry about it, or why do you need more shoes? Raise your hand if you've ever said that, or calm down. Now, the problems of understanding and empathy are actually linked. So some men understand that their girlfriend wants more shoes because she wants to feel pretty, but they think it's stupid, or, she should know I think she's hot. But that's why empathy is so important. It's not enough to understand. You also have to empathize or put yourself in her shoes. And finally, you need to have compassion. So a relationship is not an internship where you're grooming a woman to be your perfect wife. It's not the military where you need to break a recruit down. Relationships need compassion or concern for the other person. So if we go back to the dumb shoe example, you can understand and empathize, but if you don't show compassion or concern for your girlfriend's feelings, it's still not going to work. Now, that doesn't mean you have to agree with her or think that she's right. But in order to have a successful relationship, you must show compassion for the way that she feels. So really, you have to go all in with emotional engagement. You have to care. And if this all seems like too much work for you, then maybe the woman you are in a relationship with isn't that important to you. So the 3 keys to emotional engagement are: 1, understanding what your girlfriend really wants and needs beyond the surface level. 2, empathizing with her emotions. And 3, showing compassion for how she feels. Now, it's simple, but it's not easy. So now let's look at some ways to take these keys and turn them into actions that you can take in your relationship. So first, grounding. Now, grounding is all about understanding who your girlfriend is and having her understand you. And when you ground yourself, you explain how you went from being a kid to who you are today. And once you do that, you want to then encourage her to do the same thing. Now, this might sound simplistic, but you'd be amazed at how many couples don't know anything about each other. You must explain the formative experiences of your life and ask about hers. Grounding each other's realities is the first step on the journey to understanding. Now, an easy way to introduce this is to, say you read an article about how couples that know each other's life stories are more likely to succeed than, say, let's exchange our little 5-minute life story. Second part is finding her values. So in the world of neuro-linguistic programming, there's a concept called ends values and mean values. Now, ends values are things like money, height, and status. Means values are what those things mean to the person. Like the saying, the ends justify the means. Clever, right? Now, overall, NLP is kind of a strange thing, but this concept is right on, and it's useful to help understand your girlfriend. So what you're going to do is what's known as a values elicitation. Now, there are many kinds of values elicitations, but I'm going to teach you a really straightforward, authentic version. So you can start out by explaining to her that you just learned about this new way of finding out how compatible people are, and it's called a values elicitation. And then you're going to ask her if she wants to do it so that you can figure out what makes each other tick. Now, the elicitation itself is super simple. So to start, ask something like, if you could pick one thing that's most important to you in a relationship, what would it be? And then when you get an answer, you're going to ask, what does that value allow you to feel? Next, you want to ask her to describe a situation that demonstrates that value and feeling. And finally, you're going to summarize what she told you in its entirety. And you're going to ask, once again, how this all makes her feel. And this final answer is your means value, and the answers before that are her end values. Now finish the exercise by telling her what her values are and that she should make all decisions in life to be aligned with those values. And finally, the third part here is realistic expectations. Now, one of the best ways to become better at understanding your girlfriend is to have realistic expectations about what relationships are. So despite the way that romantic love is portrayed in the media and on social media, your girlfriend is not going to become your everything. You don't need to do everything together or get every need that you have satisfied by this one person. And neither does she. See, many men have terribly unrealistic expectations about women. But the truth is that, like all people, some women are great, some women are awful, with the majority somewhere in the middle. So don't take your preconceived notions about women or relationships into your relationship and instead try to judge your girlfriend based on what she does and how she treats you. If you can do that, you'll have a great chance of understanding who she is and how you can keep her around. So now let's dive into the empathy tools. So the first one is mirroring. One of the best ways to put yourself in another person's shoes is just to mirror their body language. Now, mirroring is the art of subtly copying the other person's body language and gestures as you speak. So if they lean back, then you lean back. If they cross their legs, you cross your legs. Now, physiology and empathy are linked through the biofeedback mechanism. And you can actually experience this yourself. So write down how you feel right now on a 1 to 10 scale. Then smile as wide as you can for 30 seconds. Take a break for 10 seconds, and then do it again. Repeat. And then write down how you feel on a 1 to 10 scale. I'm guessing it improved, right? Because the act of smiling just makes you feel better. And mirroring works the same way. Mirroring someone makes it easier to literally feel where they're coming from. Now, the second tool is active listening. So another way to empathize with your girlfriend is to use what's known as active listening. With active listening, instead of just waiting for when it's your turn to talk, you're going to do two things. First, you're going to let her know that you're listening by actively signaling with your body language and with affirmative phrases like, I know exactly what that's like, and exactly. But the real magic of active listening comes when you paraphrase whatever your girlfriend just said. So maybe you've ever heard the phrase, the best way to learn is to teach. Well, the best way to empathize with your girlfriend is to repeat what she said back to her, creating a story that you understand and showing that you empathize with how she feels. Now, don't try to fix things. One of the ways well-intentioned men commonly show a lack of empathy is through trying to fix things. Now, the term mansplaining exists because a lot of the time men offer advice to women that they neither asked for or want, which leads them to feeling like the man didn't empathize with them at all. And as men, our instinct is to be more solutions-oriented. So if I complain to a male friend about a situation, I expect him to give me advice even if I don't ask for it. But when women talk to their friends about their problems, they expect them to just empathize with them. So learning to try not to fix a woman's problems is one of the best ways to display empathy. And finally, here are 3 compassion tools. Now, the first one is to embrace the gray area. So one of the biggest barriers to compassion is seeing the world in black and white. Humans are complicated. Relationships can be unconventional and still be fulfilling for the people in them. Real life is much more gray than black and white. So if you learn to embrace the gray area and take to heart the idea that most people are doing the best that they can, you'll find yourself being more compassionate. The second one is acceptance. So if you're going to keep a woman attracted to you, you have to show compassion for who she is, not for who you want her to be. Many men put women on pedestals or imagine a better relationship than has ever existed. But you have to accept your girlfriend for who she is and not who she could be. Now, both men and women make this mistake in relationships. When women do it, it's typically called having a project man. But when men do it, it's just delusional, and it usually ends with heartbreak. So if your girlfriend can't cook or doesn't always return your calls, you have to accept those kinds of things if you want to be with her. Now, one phrase I teach to my students to deal with this is, it would be nice if. It would be nice if your girlfriend was perfect, but she's not. And if you don't embrace and accept who she is, then you're going to lose her. So see her as she wants to be seen. And finally, the last key to compassion is to actively decide to see your girlfriend as she wants to be seen. Now, I call this technique the golden mirror, because what you're going to do is reflect back to your girlfriend her ideal version of self. Now, every woman has an idealized version of herself. So to find it, just ask her, what would you do if you could do anything in the world with no chance of failure? And once you know what her idealized version of herself is, you're going to become her biggest cheerleader. You're going to use her idealized image to give her the best compliments she's ever received by reinforcing that she is who she wants to be. Whew, okay guys, that was a lot of great content. But before you move on to our final video on step number 3, let's quickly recap what you learned in this video. So we started off by talking about what it means to engage a woman's emotions. Then we looked at the 3 keys to engaging a woman's emotions, which are, in order, number 1, understanding what your girlfriend wants and needs beyond the surface level. If you wait for a woman to tell you what she wants, then you're going to be waiting a long time. Secondly, empathizing with her emotions. It's not enough to understand and dismiss her emotions. You have to show her you empathize with how she actually feels. And finally, show compassion for how she feels. So you want to show her that you're not judging her, but you have compassion for how she feels without interjecting your own judgment. And then we looked at 9 different ways you can use the keys in your relationship, from grounding to the golden mirror. So for today's exercise, I want you to pick a tool from each category and begin to implement it in your relationship this week. And in video number 3, I'm going to walk you through the 3rd and final step of the Girlfriend Blueprint, recap the entire program, and tell you what to do next. We'll see you in that video.